So we'll do, carry on with that. Stuff was quite complicated last week about the different levels of Bhakti. Bhakti in regulatory Bhakti, and then how do you get to Bhava Bhakti, how do you get to Prema Bhakti. And then we'll look at, and we'll do that within the context of the verse. Also, I'm doing Bhagavad Gita class here on Sunday at the temple.
Okay.
11:30, I'll send it. Which is going to be similar. I had a Bhakti Vaibhav. I chanted most of my rounds of that meeting this morning, and I did Bhakti Vaibhav at 3 a.m. UK.
Why are you doing 11:30 a.m. class on Sunday?
That's what they've got they're doing some event.
Event?
Yeah, that's what we've been told.
Huh?
On Sunday?
By who?
Adirondha Peru.
Oh, right, okay.
On Sunday?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, there's something.
No, Sunday feast.
Oh, okay, Sunday feast.
Sunday feast,
Of
yeah.
course.
Sunday feast.
Okay.
Oh, you're giving a feast class.
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting promotion.
Well, so many devotees around here are getting this opportunity now, which is like most
Are you being promoted?
Even Kirtan Priya did class on Monday.
Yeah, and on Tuesday he'll be giving class as well in the morning, Kirtan Priya Prabhu. And also watch this space. Rob Prabhu is going to be giving class.
I want to see that.
Watch this space. So many devotees are being encouraged now to give class, which is amazing.
That's much better, isn't it?
Yeah, so some diversity, so yeah.
Well, I think you've got to spread the mercy that everyone feels like they're, belonging. I think that's
And valued as well.
valued. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So shall I sing today for a bit? And just not get. I had a really good tune in the shower half an hour ago. I lost it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Are we ready for the door close, or is you guys okay? Do we want the door closed? Are you cold?
No.
Pick up, shall I close the door?
I'm cold.
If you're cold, then
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
sitting
very
all the way
dusty.
over here, so I'm away from the door. So.
It's a bit dusty outside.
Yeah, the smell was really.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got a little bit of that. So we just do the introductory prayers. Yeah. Om Jnanartiparandasya Jnananyana Salaka Asmu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swaya Upakaravayam Dodati Swapadakam Vandeham Shri Guru Nikruta Pavakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Guru Sagadatam Sagana Pragnavitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Pashanaya Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sudakam Samscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavando Jagapate Gopisa Gopikata Radha Kata Namostate Tatra Kancha Gaurangi Radha Rinda Sajuri Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranani Purnari Hariye Vanchakalpatru Pushpa Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Palavyo Vaishnavya Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We'll see from when you get a chance to read Chaitanya Charitamrita, see the instructions to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. It's quite profound in Lord Chaitanya, and that will explain why they're at the start of these prayers, because there was such great souls that the Lord Himself directly was telling them about devotional service. Okay, so we're going to do chapter 12, verse 16. For a completely selfish reason, because I have to do the same verse on Saturday. If I need a rehearsal. So if I'll read it out and you can repeat it, and then one of you can have it. So I'll just wait. So it's page 613.
Sorry?
613.
600.
13, yeah. On that. So chapter 12, verse 16. Yeah, so on the right hand side. Yeah. Correct?
12, 13?
So chapter 12, verse 16. So, but on the Macmillan edition, it's page 613.
Yeah.
But okay, good. Okay. Anapiksa Suchudaksa Askadasano Gata Vyata Sarvadambha Parityagi Yodmana Bhakta Sami Priya. We can have a go at reading it out together. Okay? We do also order it together. Anapiksa Suchudaksa Udasino Gata Vyata Sarvadambha Parityagi A devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, who does not strive for some result, is very dear to me. Yeah? So, a devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities. Okay, so we'll look at that in a minute. Who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and who does not strive for some result, is very dear to me. Okay? So, chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita is the last chapter in the middle section, which is the Bhakti Yoga section. Yeah, so you have the first 6 chapters, which are Karma Yoga. The middle bit of the sandwich, which is the important bit, which is Bhakti Yoga, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then you have the last 6 chapters, 13 to 18, which is Jnana Yoga. Yeah. Now, I'm just repeating this stuff because you'll eventually remember it. So at the end of the 6th chapter, which is the last chapter of Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, effectively, Krishna says, of all the yogis, Jnana Yogi, Karma Yogi, Ashtanga Yogi, Hatha Yoga, who is the highest yogi? The yogi who always thinks of me within himself constantly is the highest yogi. Right? Now the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation, so very often what happens at the end of a chapter is Arjuna then goes, next chapter, well, how do you become such a person? So you can see that it goes from Karma Yoga into Bhakti Yoga, and the next question at the start of chapter 7 is, well, okay, this person who always thinks of you within himself, how do you become such a person? Right? So then you've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all about sort of getting you to the point of becoming this person. And chapter 12 is the kind of final test checklist of how far have you got in that journey of becoming this person who is the highest yogi. Yeah? Yogi means any action that's done in linking with Krishna. Yeah? So not for your own pleasure. So, this first part, so what we're now looking at is these attributes of this pure yogi that's achieved this very high stage. Yeah? So a devotee is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities. Right? So the other side of that is someone who's striving, as it says here, striving for some results in the actual verse. Okay? So that means your action is biased towards wanting an outcome of some sort. Yeah? And that person is not in a high level of knowledge, because ultimately you come in with certain karma from your previous lives, certain outcomes are going to happen, and you're trying to contrive some of the greater outcome, and that's going to result in good and bad reaction. Right? So this person, this yogi is always thinking of Krishna. He doesn't want to kind of force himself into a position where the reason I'm going to go and trade today is because I can make extra profit. I'm going to work 3 hours harder. He thinks that he's the doer of his actions somehow. Yeah? And that is a lack of detachment. Because ultimately Krishna is in control. Okay? So there's a guy called Stephen R. Covey, and he made this very popular 2 circles, which you've probably seen. You have basically like a saucer. You have one circle and a bigger circle. And the smaller circle is the circle of the things you can actually control. And the outer circle is the things that people worry about. And the reality is they worry about far more than they can actually control. Yeah? The anxieties are far, far, far greater. Okay? So in these books, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, they talk about people who only do what they can focus on. Now for us, the spiritualists, that's only a starting point. Yeah? What we're interested in is that middle circle, we can only do what we can do, and everything else is up to Krishna. So this anxiety, which is a manifestation of the bodily concept of life, actually drops away. Because we're not concerned with doing things that are out of our control. Because we understand that God exists, and He's ultimately in charge of the material universe and the spiritual worlds. Right? So we have to become habituated by practice of going, I'm anxious about this, but I'm trying to be God because I think I can control that somehow. No, there's minimal things you can control. You've been given a job, you can go to work. At the end of the month, can you control the fact that the employer hasn't gone bust and can pay you? No. You don't know. But we think, every month the paycheck just comes in. Do we know 3 months from now we'll be able to pay our mortgage or rent or our rates or whatever it is? No, we don't know that. But we have habituated to being in control because we have ego. Oh yes, that will work itself out. So we're not living in this mode of dependency, which is so important to shifting us towards that bhava, feeling for Krishna and love for Krishna. Right? And that's where we're trying to go with this. Yeah, next one. So if you look at this verse very carefully, and devotees do not depend on the ordinary course of activities. That first section, there's a flip side of that, which is the devotee that depends only upon me. Yeah? If you're depending upon Krishna, you're not depending on yourself, therefore you're not depending on your day-to-day work to go, because I'm working, I'm going to get food. You understand that because Krishna is allowing it to happen, that you're going to go to work and get food. So, with that understanding comes a deeper level of humility, because you're not taking the simple things for granted anymore in life. Oh, I'll just be able to breathe tomorrow, and I'll just be able to get, somehow overnight the food I left in the fridge will still be there. Someone hasn't burgled the fridge, some homeless person. That I haven't got that bad karma that someone's come and done that. But we just assume all these things. We have a kind of certain level of gratitude from like moral principles, but we don't have a spiritual level, deeper spiritual level of gratitude, which we have to develop, which is, I woke up in the morning, I have all this stuff, because Krishna's allowed it to be there. I still got the food in the fridge this morning, because no one's come and interfered over, that's Krishna. He's allowing that good karma of mine to kind of manifest itself, right? So we have to start creating a dependency upon Krishna, right? And as we create a dependency upon Krishna, we'll be lured towards Krishna. We'll realise that we can't really do anything without it. Because they say ultimately the super soul of the heart, which is Krishna's plenary portion, he's sanctioning every breath almost. You don't know. All these people are in the state of ignorance. They think that this is all because of science. They can just breathe them out because the lungs run out of air, there's pressure on them, and they breathe in and breathe out. But no, you have to understand, and you do understand that Krishna's behind all this. There isn't this independence that people think, to the degree they think there is. So pure, who's pure? Now who's pure? One whose actions are not self-orientated, who is rejoicing every morning because there's another day to do something for Krishna. That is purity. This is. I saw a talk by Devarita Swami a few years ago on YouTube, a couple of days ago, giving this talk, and someone was saying, I've been chanting for so many years, and how do I stop it from becoming tedious? And Devarita Swami said to him, how can there be anything that's tedious in Krishna consciousness? It's every day you're doing something that no one else is getting an opportunity to do, which is doing the correct action in this world. There's nothing tedious about it. So it's actually, we're bringing this kind of apathy and staleness because we're used to the bad material pleasure, where we're thinking the bhakti is like that, but it's not. It's not like a dead wooden chair. It's living, active force of the soul, its natural state. So pure purity means, putting God first at every instance during the day. It's not someday I'll become pure. No, you can start doing that straight away. And it starts with so many little things. A big thing, if you're building a big Lego Egyptian pyramid, you start off with the little bricks at the bottom. You don't start with the whole thing. So it starts with a little million cuts. How do I brush my teeth? Why, as I said on Saturday, what's the toothpaste that Krishna wants me to put in my mouth? Let me put the toothpaste for Krishna. Let me put my mouthwash for Krishna. Let me pick my clothes there for Krishna. Krishna's inside me, and he's also inside all these other souls that are going to see me. So it's this kind of constant attention to your existence becoming for the Lord's pleasure. And that ultimately is what devotion is. It's like I exist for Krishna. And then it's quite easy to go, Krishna will pull you towards purity because you've worked out the answer. That's the answer of getting back to Godhead we were talking about that earlier. It's this idea that I only breathe for Krishna. Now that's a progressive state, and we have a wonderful tool to do that. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So, expert. Right? Expert means that they know the science of bhakti. They know the end goal of the science of bhakti. The end goal of knowledge is Krishna. That's the purpose of all knowledge. Now, you see the fourth thing, without cares. So we sort of discussed that. Without cares. Might be different in the yellow book. So then this, and the way you remember this, I wish I could write this on the board, is to give up bodily attachment is to give up anxiety. Okay? That's, if you want to write it down on your phone, that's what you tell yourself. You know, you give up anxiety because you're giving up the bodily condition. You know you're dependent on Krishna. Okay? There's no point carrying around these necklaces of anxiety. You know, if we had an anxiety necklace shop, wacky, you know, in the marketplace, and here's anxiety about your kids, here's your anxiety about your parents. Would you want to buy one of these necklaces? If you buy a necklace, here's your anxiety about your job, your employer, your neighbour, or your sleep, or your health. You know, we can buy all these anxiety necklaces, and they're just part of the bodily conception of life. And we actually choose, we play back these things every day. You know, 99% of people's thoughts every day are the same as the day before. Now imagine I put the same piece of music on in your head constantly. Like, I'm trying to do the same, right? But we managed to go walk around this insane state of same thoughts as yesterday, same thoughts as yesterday. And people who don't do japa in the morning, do the chanting in the morning, they're actually getting up and almost playing back the same thing from the night before, where they left off with their thoughts and anxieties. There's no break in it for them, because they haven't learned how to dissociate that. So we've got to, our attachment creates this anxiety, creates this kind of lack of dependency on Krishna, and our wanting, our desire to control things, constant desire to control things. You know, if you imagine in a controlling relationship, whether it's a woman controlling a man or a man controlling a woman, you know, it becomes an unpleasant experience for the other person. You know, there's a lack of like letting go of that almost. You know, there's a lack of trust, and you know, let them be, let them do what they want, give them that space. You know, controlling the relationship is like, what are you wearing? What time are you going back? What time are you coming back? What are you doing at 11 at night? You know, all this sort of stuff. You know, like you would to an adolescent kid. You know, and we're treating the material world and ourselves like that. We're trying to get to control it. You know, so we've got to be very wary of where our thoughts are leading us in terms of level of control where we're trying to apply here, because we don't have that absolute control. The whole world is working on a delusion of absolute control. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many grand material schemes. You know, next year we're going to make so many more jobs by creating more weapons. And you know, how do we create jobs? Create more weapons. How do you create more weapons? Create more threats. You know, it's full madness, material madness. You know? So, free from all pain. So that's sort of related. You know. So we don't. Any suffering we have is Krishna's mercy. You know, if we weren't a devotee, we'd be suffering a lot more. We're not getting the remedial effects of chanting. We're not getting that. And we see that as part of Krishna's blessing, because the problem with Hiranyakasipu running the universe for 10,000 years was, for materialists, it was a paradise. You had unlimited sense enjoyment, right? It's like watching Netflix and getting pizza delivered constantly to yourself, 24 hours a day. Okay? You never need to get out of bed, but there's no spiritual progress. And the material world is designed to be unpleasant, so that it gets people to thinking, why am I here? Why don't I get out of here? If it's just going to be fun, then Krishna's a very negligent parent. Right? There's no homework ever. It's just go out and play the computer game, And we know what happens to kids if that happens. Okay, they turn to small brats. So Krishna, the ultimate parent, does not want that for us. You know. So, okay. And then, who does not strive for some result. So we already talked about that. You know, action for sense gratification. That's difficult, because we are all conditioned, and we want to enjoy, so that's why we're here, as I keep saying. Okay? So that's the hardest part. Now, all this can happen through 9 processes of bhakti, but most importantly, it happens through how you chant Hare Krishna. Okay? And there's a range of different ways you can chant Hare Krishna. But how you chant Hare Krishna will depend on how quickly you attain these kind of qualities. So your key performance indicators from chapter 12, Bhagavad Gita. Right, now if I just go back to the start, and Krishna has given you some guarantees here, so you don't have to worry. So I'll just read out the KPIs. The first one is, he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshipping me, this is verse 2, with great faith and transcendental faith, and considered by me to be most perfect. Right? So that's your kind of top standard. But then Krishna's saying, I will get you to that standard. So that's what he's saying in the next few verses. Right, so impersonalism, verse 3 to 4, 12, 3 to 4. Those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of senses. Impersonal conception of truth, eventually get to me after many, 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 many lives. Yep.
Which verse is this?
12, 3, 12, 3, 12, 4, and 12, 5. Yeah. So let's just put that. And then you've got, if you want to get to this constant state of devotion, then most of our routes are going to be through karma yoga. That's going to be our nishkama karma yoga. It's going to be the first step for all of us. Yeah? So that's in 12.6. The one who worships me, giving up all his activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation. Yeah? As you can see, that's how they will get there. Now, then Krishna gives you some. However, if you can't do that, you can still get to 12.2 in a different way. Just fix your mind upon me, this is 12.8, it's a compressed amount of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Then you will live in me always without a doubt. 12.8. Yeah, this is what we call smarana, thinking of doing things when thinking about Krishna. Yeah, it could be coming to the temple, it could be different forms of smarana. And then it says, even if you can't do that, you're quite a forgetful person, you're quite conditioned. Even if you can't do that, then, my dear Arjuna, 12.9, the winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me, because we know the mind is difficult, right? Then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga. Then you will develop a desire to attain me. Yeah, all right, yeah. And then 12.10, which is your kind of pure karma yoga. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Yeah? And then, if you can't even do that, 12.11, if, however, you're unable to work in the consciousness, then try to act giving up the results of your work and try to be self-situated. Yeah.
He just made it so easy.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, even if this is not possible,
you do this.
Yeah.
If you can't do this, you do this.
Yeah.
You do what?
And then 12.12 we just did, that was 12, isn't it? So if you cannot take to this practice, engage yourself in cultivation of knowledge. And better than knowledge is meditation, better than meditation is renunciation. Yeah? And then you've got the beginning of the KPIs, once you have to keep performing indicators. So if you think about how people start their devotional journeys, this makes sense. This is how they start. They kind of come to the temple, they kind of might give some money, might do something, give some food, or say something, say a prayer. It's that process. They're not in regulative principles yet, and then they come and give a bit more. And what they're doing is actually realizing that they're giving a bit away. They're forming a little bit of austerity. Krishna is seeing that from where they are, and he's starting to then start the pull. A lot of, I'd say most people came in through this road.
Renunciation of fruits of action as such. Renunciation of making a pain peace of mind.
Yeah. As soon as you start giving it away, imagine every $10 you get and your living cost is $2. Instead of spending it on your own sense of gratification, you're giving those $8 away every time. Yeah, you don't become attached to the work that much. Because it becomes a process of just taking for Krishna and giving for Krishna. And then you're like that, you begin your karma journey, karma yoga journey. You're linking the action to the body. And through that, you then progress to Vedi Bhakti. Then we talked about last week, Vedic Bhakti, starting with regulatory principles. Yeah? So sometimes we can't do everything in a regular way. So we start by doing little things. And Krishna then pulls that. As the frequency of that increases, we will get to regulation. Because we're actually becoming more regulated, actually. If I've never been involved in Krishna consciousness, and suddenly I start bringing a banana to temple every week, I'm actually in some sort of, it's not the proper regulation, but I'm doing something which is regular. And I'm actually getting detached in that moment I'm doing that. And in Krishna consciousness, because Krishna has infinite mercy, little acts actually are huge. Krishna can take the smallest act and multiply the effect of it. Yeah. So there's always a lot of hope for us in that sense. So then you've got Vedic Bhakti, and then we talked about last week, and the first impact of then moving to regulatory Bhakti, which is, having a daily program for yourself, sadhana. And that is really the kind of first step in getting to this stage of pure constant devotion. And Vedic Bhakti becomes self-fueling. It's like a fire that puts petrol on itself without you having to do too much. Because what happens is you get something called Klesagari. Okay, it's the first step. Okay? Klesagari is kind of the mature energies impact on you. You actually feel better. And the reason you're feeling better is because it's having an impact on three things which are actually causing distress. So human beings out there who are not devotees, they're actually feeling distressed. They don't understand it as distress because they think being stressed and getting drunk is a perfect life. They don't understand that's a severe state of distress from a spiritual point of view. They think that's normal, right? But for us, we know it's not normal through knowledge. So then there's three things happening to them that are causing that. Ignorance, which is knowing what the soul is and its purpose is, right? The bija, which is desire for material opulence, sense gratification. And finally, sin. They're committing sin, they're enjoying for themselves. They're committing drinking, meat eating, all sorts of other sins. So these things are causing this distressed state where the soul isn't actually happy, but it's like trying to find happiness. If you trap a wasp in here that's trying to get outside, after a while it's going to start banging against the window quite a lot. And that's people getting drunk or getting drugs or spending money or becoming consumers or getting greedy. All these kind of faults start appearing. But as soon as you start Vedic Bhakti, because the mature energies of the Krishna's control, Krishna's now there in your life, that dissipates. So actually people start doing more and more regular stuff, the more regular stuff they do, because they're not realising that stress that used to happen to them is actually going more and more and more and more and more. And then as that stress goes and goes and goes, they're starting to form a process which allows them, as they're more regulated, to get rid of their anarthas, which are both at the physical level and then much more at the subtle level. So that will happen. Now, all that is controlled by the quality of your chanting. Okay, how well you chant is the fundamental tool in Krishna consciousness of getting you out of the material world to becoming a pure devotee. Okay, so I'm just going to read you some stuff from which I've highlighted from Sivarama Swami's chant wall, which will be quite useful. So I'll just some points for you to kind of listen to. In the conditioned stage, kirtan is easier to perform than japa because it's more potent than japa. There is a quote from Maria Purana that states kirtan is 100 times more potent. Why? Because all the senses are engaged. It is done in the association of others, and most importantly, kirtana is the yuga dharma for this age. Japa is harder initially. Kirtan is easier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, after a while, to then accelerate, you need to do the harder stuff and start getting that right. Japa is so kirtan is really helping cleansing the kind of the bad impacts of sin, the kind of tendency to sin, getting a taste for the holy name, removing the anarthas in the subtle body and the mind, and the kind of jealousy, and mainly the envy of God, which then transforms into envy for other human beings. When you're here, that starts diminishing through kirtan. Right? Now I'm just going to cover a couple of bits more to just highlighted so too much stuff. So this is important. So we can measure our advancement in devotional service, Sivaramaswami, by how much we attach to chanting Hare Krishna, by how much taste we have for the holy name, by how nicely we chant, and of course how much we chant the holy name free from offence. The mark of a Vaishnava is their chanting. In the same way that a runner is known by how they run, or a swimmer by how they swim, so a devotee is judged by how good they chant. As a good friend used to say, I judge a man by his japa. We chant, however, we chant inattentively, fit rounds either while we're driving, which is completely bogus, on public transport, not as bad, but still third class, or walking around the house doing all kinds of chores like cooking, or while talking or doing other things, again, completely bogus. Now, here there's a distinction to be made between chanting one rounds and chanting Hare Krishna. So you can chant Hare Krishna while you're driving, but it's not your 16 rounds. Right? It just can't be. Right? I'll explain that in a minute. Okay? But doing meditative japa means that we do nothing else but absorb and dedicate 2 hours of our day, 16 rounds, to the holy name of the Lord. That needs to be done the same way one would do worship, with full attention, putting aside the required time, not squeezing it in, because Krishna is not meant to be squeezed in. Okay? It is meant to be done with love, devotion, attention and care. Right? Now, that all's kind of maybe a bit heavy, right? But what you're trying to do is understand that Krishna is the holy name. Right? This is what you're trying to get to. So don't stress. If Krishna is his holy name, then chanting Hare Krishna is being with Krishna. And the purpose of all bhakti is to constantly be with Krishna. Therefore, the secret mantra of the mantra is we chant so we can chant more. That's why we chant. But ultimately, we want to always be with Krishna. That's our aim, to go back to Godhead. So, we're chanting so that we always then want to chant. That's why we're chanting. So this is, last week, I was hoping Puja Mataji would be here, because you asked me that question, what's the difference between Vaidhi Bhakti and then that Bhava Bhakti stage, second stage, regulation to feeling for Krishna, then prema. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your very conditions, so you like the material world, right? We're all the same, you know? I'm probably worse than all. But we're trying to get to the stage where we want to be with Krishna all the time, and the only way we can prove that to ourselves is, oh, I've got 10 minutes, I'm going to do another 2 rounds. Because I want to be with Krishna. And eventually, what the Vrajavasis do in Vrindavan, well, they were, when my husband goes to sleep, so I've got to go out to the lake where Krishna goes to sleep. Yeah? If you imagine the day-to-day chores, so it's like, imagine you're at work, can't wait to get back to chanting to be with Krishna. Okay? That's what you're trying to get to. That's where we need to go. Right? Because that is the signs that start to get you out of the material world. Yeah? Because everybody's like, you don't want to be here, you want to be with Krishna. So this chanting has to be done in such a way that when you wake up, it will eventually move from regulatively doing it, because I had to do my 16 rounds, to I get up, I've got to be with Krishna now, it's so exciting. Oh, off I go. You know? And you can develop that enthusiasm. You know? If we all suddenly joined a model railway club, right? I would be like, oh God, model railway club, you know. Right? And that was what we're going to spend our spare time doing, right? Now, eventually you have to go, look, you know, we're trapped in this room. The only thing we're allowed to do is play with model railways. Right? They're going to bring us food and everything else. We must enjoy it, guys, you know. Because the only way out of here is they really see us enjoying playing with the model railways. Right, so that's what we say. We only let you out of the room if you really enjoy playing with the model railways. Okay? And we're watching through cameras. Right? So you play, I've seen it go around the track 50 times. You know, I'm going to steep, can I borrow your engine or whatever, can we switch it around? Or, okay, but eventually, okay, let's start enjoying it, for God's sake. Okay? And they go, oh, that's a bit better, you're really focused now. You know? And Krishna is seeing your japa now, you know. Like, oh, God, play with the model railway. Yeah. Got to do 2 hours of playing with the model railway. Yeah, it's like, imagine you're 10 years old, right? So you're never going to approach it that way. That's why sometimes if you're an intellectual, it's difficult. Then very quickly doing good chapter because you're overthinking, right? So, what do we use? How do we get that? And how do we get to that pure state of japa? Well, the most important thing is to isolate the mind. So, you've got an 8-year-old child with you, and you're going to the library to see your best friend to do a study session for some Bhagavad course. And you have to take the 8-year-old with you. It's really noisy in the car. Are we going to have some milkshake afterwards? Can we go to a toy shop? And you turn up to be your study partner. Right? And all the way through the 40 minutes of studying Bhagavad Gita, the kid is making a hell of a lot of noise. Right? And that's what people's minds are when they're doing japa. And that kid is the mind. Sit down, and it's like chanting, and it's like the kid is causing havoc. Oh, yes, it is. Then I'm over there. I'm doing this. What about that thing over there? Oh, will this devotee look at me like that? Am I actually a good devotee? How am I chanting properly? Oh my God. Am I getting away with life? What's the point of it all? All this stuff going on. What's the football school? I'm always thinking, is Pradeep texting me? Is Pradeep texting me? Is he in care about me? Just making sure I fall asleep. So anyway, whatever it is, it's going to come in and so we are learning. Sorry, that's a bit.
Sorry.
Getting away there, I was laughing. But what we're trying to do is kind of quieten that down, right? And one of the things I used to find curious was like, they tell you that when you wake up in the morning and you're getting used to waking up early, you should put lots of bright lights on, right? And all the swamis in ISKCON, all the really good chanters, they used to kind of be in this like one lamp and it was quite dark. And I go, how on earth are they doing that? I'd fall asleep. Like I'm sitting in the corner, they're in the corner with like a little light on. They're chanting, they're chanting, they're chanting. And then it occurred to me it's actually much easier to listen to the sound. If I put a blindfold on, I'm not really looking around my room. I've got tons of nonsense around my room to look at. So I've got a blindfold on, I don't have to listen, which is what you're supposed to do when you're chanting. I've always said, when you go for the deities, you don't do this. I'm here to look at Krishna. Right? And the chanting, you turn your ears off is the same thing. You've got to sort of listen and listen and listen. And the more you listen, the more it's purifying you. Right? So firstly, you've got to listen. Secondly, you've got to humble yourself. You've got to say to Krishna, I've been a twit, I shouldn't be here, miserable world, I've forgotten you. And now I'm here to be with you. And because I'm most fallen, I need your help to give me more service. I need to help me to do more japa. I want you to make sure I do 30 rounds this morning. Somehow, I'll sneak out at work and go to the toilet or something and do them. I'll sneak to the back just as if I'm having a cigarette. Probably easier nowadays to have cigarette breaks because you can pretend to have a cigarette. Job. Can't do that anymore. So just wanting to be, I want you to make me want to be with you. That's going to be your prayer, if that's what you're with. That's your first prayer. You've got to want to be with Krishna. You've got to want to chant all the time. You've got to sneak away and come to the temple at 10, pretend you're sick or something, once every 3 weeks. Go, at my work, I can get away with pretending to be sick once every 3 weeks. I'm going to come to the temple at 10 in the morning and chant another 2 hours. So I'll have 4 hours that day. Because it's showing Krishna good intention. He's going to take care of eating, mating, defending, shelter, and all that stuff. Food. We don't, Prabhupada always said repeatedly, don't worry about the bread problem. If you're with Krishna constantly, that's where you want to be. You don't have to, you will be fed somehow. You will be roofed somehow. Deal with the first major problem of your life, which is your lack of desire to constantly be with Krishna. Fix that problem. Focus on that. That's our main problem. The main problem is always something else to do, apart from being with God. But then we're going to have to come back and carry on and eventually get to that place. But we can do it now because you're with Krishna in the holy name, and we've got an opportunity. Sometimes we won't be chanting offensively. There will be moments when we're not. If we just multiply those moments, we'll accelerate. That's what we need to find. And then, from Vedic Bhakti to Bhava, we mustn't, particularly with young people, and I used to be the same, still am in some ways. There's a difference between wanting a feeling for Krishna and having a feeling for Krishna. There's two different things. Yeah, sometimes there's a confused, you know, do I want to feel it? I'm yearning, and I do care, so I'm yearning to have a feeling for Krishna. But don't make that convince yourself that that is the same as having a feeling, you know. Kesha Swami used to say, fake it till you make it, but don't convince yourself that if you haven't made it, that you've made it through faking it. You know. So the litmus test for us in all of this, so going from the first day when you bring a banana once a month to the temple, that's all you do. And you're going all the way to, I'm only chanting because I can't stop chanting. I understand now what Haridas Thakur was doing, chanting all day, chanting so much, even a prostitute that came to kind of lure him away ended up chanting as well. You know, she found it intoxicating, you know, that new name. Chanting, I'm chanting some more chanting. You know, that's what we're trying to do. You know. And we're going to get that together. You know, we're going to do this. Because we don't want to come back here, right? You know, unless we have some weird attraction where then our motivation is impure, then we're going to fix that through chanting as well. So, yeah. So any questions on that so far? I'm a bit flat today because I stayed up in the morning for these meetings. So, apologise. Not 100% today. Any Japanese question? Be honest with me, because I've learned so many tricks. If you say, this is what's happening, I may not know the answer. I might go, oh, I dealt with that this way, so I can tell you. You know. So here's your chance. You know. You always have questions about Japan. What's happened today?
My mind goes like this, so I haven't done this, I'm going to see Marty today, she's going to say this to me, and I'm doing Hare Krishna, my mind goes everywhere. I try to know, just keep focused.
Yeah, so there's not, that happened to me as well. You know, if we were perfect, we wouldn't be here, right? So we all have to go through the process of learning. So what you have to do is go, let's say you're doing 16 rounds and your mind is all over the place, right? You want to take a pause somewhere, maybe around 4 or 5, because I think initially there's an anxiety to get it done. I totally understand that. You know, I just want to get it done. I want to be good and just get the 16 rounds done. You know, or if your target is 8, whatever it is. I want to get it done. What you can do is suddenly pause for half a round. And let me do 5 or 6 of them, just perfectly enunciating and listening to it. And we can all manage 5 or 6 beats. I might not want to go beyond that, but we can all manage that, because actually we have to indicate, look around the corner. So we have to live within 5 or 6 seconds of concentration. We're driving or crossing a road or just doing this basic day-to-day tasks. We have that being built to us. Yeah? If all of us, since we were children, if we all got run over, if we didn't look across the road carefully, look for 3 minutes on the other side, then we could probably do a whole round initially, because for initially it's about 6 minutes. You need that level of concentration, so our brain hasn't developed it. There's no need for it neurologically to do that. Right? So it's a waste of time. If the brain does that, it gets eaten by a saber-toothed tiger into your body, according to scientists. Right? So you're teaching it to concentrate more than it needs to. So that's hard in itself anyway. You know? So if you start off with 5, how do you get someone to swim 20 laps? You get them to half a length, and then walk the other half, and then come back the next day, do the same, and then the week after they do whole length, eventually get to 20 minutes. Like, it's the same with chanting, you know. So you've got to sort of, let me do 5 beats, pure focus. And you'll be amazed just doing that, but doing it every day, even if you're doing the other bits badly, how that will increase. Because Krishna actually wants you to go back to him. He's going to help you. You're not on your own here. He's there in the name, he's in your heart as well. You're not on your own, that's ignorance. Okay? Yeah, so that I would start with that and then say, okay, well, let me do my 14th round, I'm going to make that the pure round. Everything else is a warm-up. Let me get all my thoughts up. Let me make that round, my round, that's going to be really focused. And what will happen over time is you're going to feel something in that round. You just will. And you'll want to then do it more. You know? And that's how I started getting. I would make a cup of tea and chanting, you know. I used to chant my sports car. I used to have a circuit lap thing, you know, in my Porsche. I used to chant by turning the chronometer on. It used to be 6-7 minutes to my house from swimming pool. I was chanting away, and I knew that was 1 round of beats. So if I go back and forth 4 times a day, that would be my four rounds, chanting in the bush. But then I thought, hang on a minute, is this good, is this not good, or whatever, And then I used to swim and stop and do 1 round on the beach in the car park at 9 o'clock at night. There's no one there. Then sit in the car and do the chanting, which you're not supposed to do as driving. And it started with just getting that 1 round that was pure after all my system had completely been exhausted. So I've been in the swimming pool for half an hour. So there's no thoughts left in my head. I crashed myself around. And I get in the car park, it was about 0 degrees, so this is England, and there were rabbits everywhere, running around at night, in the car park. I'd sit there, ignore the rabbits, and there's no one around. I could hear myself just chant. And then what happened is I kept these beads in the car. I used to go up and down, they call them motorways or freeways here. I'd park the car in a 2-hour journey. I'd park the car and do it twice. I'd go to the middle of the field randomly and just do it. I started doing it more and more and more and more. And it just started taking over. It just started taking me over. So that's how you do it. You kind of just have to apply yourself, And then you could definitely feel something. And as I said, what's actually happening is the impact of the bad karma is actually dissipating. You can see that. The more you go towards Krishna, the more those effects. We're here talking about this now, but there are people in their homes stressing about family life right now in the evening. We're not feeling any of that. Yeah, maybe you are, but I'm you're hiding it very well. You see them laughing, so something's there. There are people so materially engrossed that they're never going to get an opportunity to do this. They're going to think about it and discuss it. So you see yourself as very privileged. And those small steps, I think Pradeep charged 16 rounds a couple of times this year, or more, I don't know, a couple of times, once or twice. But that means he's put that in his spiritual bank balance. So 10 years from now, you can probably meet him and we're just doing it non-stop. He doesn't realise that right now. But actually, those conditions do break down,
It happens suddenly too, doesn't it?
Yeah. I remember about 8 or 9 years ago, I was stuck in Singapore at the Hong Kong airport. I was taking a cab to Marriott at Hong Kong airport. I wasn't chanting. I stopped chanting. Maybe I was doing it on a plane or something. And I just kept doing it in the car without the beads. The beads were in the boot of the taxi or something. Very Hare Krishna. And I went, this is weird, I just keep doing this. It's like it was coming from within. It's like it was really addictive, and you couldn't stop. And for years in my 20s, I was like, God, if I start chanting like these guys are at my age in the temple, then how am I going to go to the pub? How am I going to get drunk? It's not really fun anymore for me, And I knew, I was scared. I thought, if I do this, I know I'm going to be sucked into this thing. I was like, it's just a cult. And I'm like, why do you keep coming back to this cult? You keep coming back to the temple every day. Like, I'm just curious. I'm not getting involved. You're all crazy. That's what I used to think. These people are mad, jumping up and down the streets and freezing cold. What's wrong with them? And I go in and go, this is fun though, isn't it? I like being here, I like seeing you. And it's madness, maybe I'm just doing it. I'm a pretender. I tell myself anything not to get more involved, anything that will lead to a commitment, I wouldn't want to do it. Because we're conditioned. We want to enjoy for ourselves. We want to enjoy material energy. We want to ignore the Lord. We're envious of him. It was a beautiful personality. It's Krishna. It's all attractive. He blows his flute and the demigods pass out. Can you imagine? All musicians in human history, every tune has come from him alone. Imagine the sound of that flute. Well, I'd rather not believe it exists. I don't want to commit to that. Super stuff. In fact, it's so simple. It's ego that's stopping us. It's not difficult to chant Hare Krishna. Planting plants in your garden is hard. People are planting away, not chanting. Go to the shops to kind of do mundane exercises with your grandkids. That's exhausting. We don't chant Hare Krishna. Simple. They don't want to surrender. It's commitment. Commitment to something else. All we're doing is fighting that. I don't want to commit. I don't want to commit. It may well be that you can chant perfectly. But what's sometimes stopping us is this kind of, if I surrender too much, I have to let go of this and let go of that, and let go of this thing. This identity I've got, these friends, what they think of me. Whereas a young guy, lovely devotee, in Edinburgh, Scotland. He used to come out doing Harinam with us, terrified his friends would see him. But something in him was bringing him out all the time. And I said to him, how many rounds are you doing? He said, I only do 14 rounds. I went, I know why you only do 14 rounds. Because if you do 16 rounds, then you have to think about initiation. So he said, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't do that, so I only do 14 rounds every day. So he'd stick on 14 because he was scared about that final, you know, and eventually, if he did 14, he's going to do 16. But anyway, it's just 23. So, you know, so we have this in us, this kind of reluctance because we're scared. What if it's all not true? What if it is all madness? What if someone made it up? So there's a box in the morning, we open it and we go, it was all a trick. His Prabhupada signed a letter saying it was all a joke. And we're still kind of, our faith is in there. That's why we hold back a little bit. Yeah, we've got to have that little bit of faith. I don't care. It's just Krishna. I don't care. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care if my mother leaves me, my wife leaves me, my kids don't talk to me again. It's just Krishna. That's what the Bhagavad is so powerful, because it gets you to that point. You kind of realise if you're really, really serious, that's your goal. Sorry, you're going to ask a question.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question.
Yeah.
So when we're chanting japa, like purely, you know, without offence, what is our mind supposed to be doing? I know that we're supposed to be engaged in hearing. You know, because often I try to, you know, instead, like, I keep my mind active instead of it going around to all the material stuff. You know, I've heard different ways of explaining the Maha Mantra and that, like, you know, when we're chanting Hare Krishna, that's Krishna and Radha together, and then Krishna, Krishna, and then Krishna is separated from Radha. And so, like, you know, they're coming together and they're going apart. That's meant to sort of perpetuate us in keeping them together and keeping on chanting. I've heard Sachinandana Maharaj speaking of it that way. And so, when we're chanting, like, what is our mind actually supposed to be doing at that point when we're chanting defenselessly? And yeah,
It's a really good question. It's not supposed to be doing anything. It's not supposed to be there. It's you're connecting your soul with God. The mind, the false ego, intelligence, the subtle body, as much as the physical body would be there, stopping you. If the physical body is stopping you from chanting, it's my tongue. It's going Hare Krishna tortoise, Hare Krishna tortoise. My physical body is stopping me from doing it. The subtle body stops you with the mind. Part of the physical, your psychophysical nature. You're supposed to actually, and this does take time, is when you chant, you're supposed to just be listening to it and enjoying the sound of it. Right? As if you're, I don't know, a 15-year-old girl listening to Celine Dion or something. I don't know, you know, whatever it is. Or listening to Simon and Garfunkel or whatever it is. You know, like an 18-year-old. That's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to listen and go. And it's just supposed to be nothing going on. You know. And it's harder if you're an intellectual overthinker. That's been your life. I was an academic, you know. The idea of me doing Hare Krishna chant, meditation, was the complete opposite of what I do. I have to overthink everything to the end point. And here I'm doing zero thinking, probably why I got attracted to it. You know, so you're not supposed to do anything. So two things you've got to be careful of, which is, I think there's a lot of stuff coming out about these technical things. You mustn't say Ramo, which people do. I've done it, because that's if you're a Bengali speaking to Krishna in Bengali. That's Rama and Ram in Bengali, because Rama is the first. It's one Rama, it's the first expansion of Krishna, which is almost like his external energy. Yeah, so he's going to be Rama. You know, so that's, you've got to be careful. And Kirtan, you've got to be careful about that. Unless you're on the Bengali Kirtan in Mayapur, it's different. They will do Rama. And if you go to Mayapur and come back, you'll be doing Rama for a while, and you've got to readjust that. It's not 100% wrong, but it's not, you know, if you want the full effect of it, it's not going to work. And then Hare is, so Krishna's internal presence is Radharani, which is the mood of service, which is Hare is Radharani effectively. So what you're actually saying is, it's also a prayer to Radharani. Can I be in a little room where I'm making a pot, I know I'm not good enough to see Krishna and play with Krishna, but then one of your maidservants may come there, take this pot, put some butter in it, and put something else in it, and then give it to somebody else, and then give it to one of the gopis eventually. Can my pot be used? Can I be used in some sort of service indirectly? You know, can I be of service to the Lord? You know? Now, it obviously works because, you know, we're all doing service of some sort. Steve was burning the morning the other day outside, it's a quite hot day, not something I want to do. You were doing something else, like a temple, cleaning something. Pradeep's always doing service, when the kids in Adelaide and you're doing service, temple. So we're actually, the mantra works, because how do we get to do service? We must have chanted it at some point, asked for prayer of service. We could have got a gifted service, which has got onto the mantra, but we're asking for service. And ultimately what we're trying to do is we're into Bhakti. So service is one of the points of 9 levels of Bhakti. But we ultimately want to be with Krishna all the time. So there should be nothing going on in your head. You're just being with Krishna and you'll be enjoying being with Krishna. So eventually the soul is engaged, and when you get to that, you'll just want to do it more and more. It then becomes, it's a fire that's big enough to fuel itself. I remember once I was, I'm not saying I do things perfectly in any way, I know I don't, but I got to 30 rounds, 35 rounds in one day, 40 rounds, and you just know you can just keep going. Because you actually...
Something happens to you.
Yeah, you just take...
Something happens.
Well, you're not...
If you do 32 rounds or 40 rounds, you feel something else.
Yeah.
You don't feel yourself, you don't feel...
Krishna's with you, and it is Krishna, so that's what you remember. It's the avatar of Krishna. If Krishna appeared as the chair avatar, you'd be like, whoa, and that's what you have to do with that name. It's like, wow, you don't be thinking about other stuff. If Krishna appeared before you, you wouldn't be thinking about anything else. So Krishna's appearing as the holy name. Nothing should be going through your mind apart from Krishna. That's what you have to try and do. But that comes, don't be disheartened by, if you're just starting off getting a bit of regulation, if you have a month or 2 or 3 or 6, it doesn't go quite right. If you go from 16 back to 3, or, that's not important. What's important is you keep coming back to show Krishna that little bit of sincerity, and then it will iron itself out, because we all have different levels of focus and discipline inherent, but then we have to build those as well. It's like if you suddenly have to become a cross-country skier, and it snowed everywhere, you were in Norway, you have to turn your legs in a different way because you're travelling like this, and it's really, if you don't have the muscles for it, it's really painful. It takes 6 months, a year or so to train your body to do that. And that's the way, if you're struggling, that's the way you should look at it. All I'm doing, it's difficult, my brain's not used to it, my body's not used to it. But it does, you will get there, your body has got the power to adapt. And don't underestimate yourself. We're all supposed to be not in the material world, so our natural state is to be chanting all the time.
And our temple room is just, everything's Krishna.
Yeah.
So when you open your eyes, you can only be distracted by Krishna.
Yeah.
But then when I starts wandering, I think, that walk out is not even. So then I just shut my eyes and just focus only on my nose again, so I only hear the words. And that drops me back down, brings my line of thought back to the words.
I think the one thing that people struggle with early on, they'll struggle if they don't have good sleep regulation. That does make a difference. If you're quite easily, it's quite easy for you to go to sleep at 9:30 and 10 and wake up at 4, 3:30. You're going to find this very easy because that affects japa quite a lot. And I know that if I do a lot of travelling, if I know I haven't had good sleep, I know I have to approach it in a different way to get it perfect. I can't do it like I normally do it. I have to slow it down, give myself a chance to catch up. Otherwise, my mind will be everywhere. I've got to almost go, Hare Krishna, Hare. I do almost one bead, I slow down completely, and my body gets a chance to engage. If I didn't do that, which I would do in the early days, I wouldn't understand that early on. My mind would be everywhere. So I give myself a chance to get there. Let my mind disappear, turn up and disappear. Then I'll get into it. So you've got to learn the tricks of your own mind.
You know, saying slow down when I wake up.
Yeah, exactly. I think early on there's always a fear of not getting it done. I think that. But once people get over that fear, then all the fun begins because once you know you're always going to do 16 rounds, then you can really focus on doing them really well. Initially when there's that fear of I won't be able to do it, then you're just mechanically doing it. And this is going to shock you. What did Prabhupada say? How long does it take to chant perfectly for most people?
I'm going to go to the page.
Yeah.
We'll do what they told me you do now, and I think I haven't shown that when I'm probably going to count that bead.
Yes, that's right.
And then at the end I do an extra 10 to cover anything that I didn't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah. So for me that helped a lot. So I would, if my mind wandered on this bead, only 3 beads, I'd stop and I'd do that bead again and again and again to train my mind not to let it wander, and then I'd move on again. And I thought I knew that if I spent 2 or 3 hours doing that, I'd then get to a point where I was doing it in an hour or whatever perfectly. So I took longer to get it right and then adjusted it back, you know, and that's important to do, you know. But it's difficult for people to do that because, you know, if you're a tennis player and somebody tells you, well, the last 10 years you've been serving completely wrong, you've got to relearn your serve, right? You're like, oh God, I really don't want to do this. You go, okay, just give it 6 months and you'll be able to serve much faster, much better, much more effectively. And that's what you sometimes have to do. So.
When you say that whatever we do in this lifetime, it gets multiplied, Krishna multiplies it, why does he do that? Like, why does he, like, I don't get it. Like, in his brain, I want to see things, like, why he multiplies so simple things?
First indication of this, all of this is, this material world is perfect because it's supposed to get you back to the spiritual world by kicking you in the face of this world of to understand. Right? It's perfectly designed for you to eventually not like it, yeah. And that's why you're going to, once you start, you will get out of it at some point. Whether you do it in this lifetime or not, it's up to your dedication and your focus. I say the same for myself. Every day I tell myself that, you know. Will you keep coming back, which means you might slip a bit, you might become a bit of a karmi for a few lifetimes, and you know, but your devotional credits will never go, you know, because once you start from this place, if Krishna was a complete villain, he'd just annihilate you. If you're a part of him, he's not going to do that. He created the material world to reform us, you know. It's like creating a psychiatric institution to get people out of the madness. We've got the material fever, you know, it's just a question of whether we want to take the medicine or not. And irregular bhakti is just like, sometimes I take the pills, sometimes I don't want to because occasionally I get a migraine if I take those pills. Like, I know my liver will be better. And we have these attitude problems, you know. Yeah. But actually, eventually, like, you know what, I think the pills are working. Maybe I should take them in the way the doctor said on the back of the packet. You know.
So it's nothing to do with yogas, like, because we are in Kali Yoga, it just multiplies, or is that it? Because I sometimes feel
it doesn't, well, the method in Kali Yuga is a lot easier in some ways to mitigate the fact that you're not in a very pious environment. Okay, you're not in a very, you're basically living in, human beings out there, they live like animals. And they're only, you know, in previous ages, the prime, especially in such a year, the prime interest of a human being was to get into the spiritual world. It wasn't to enjoy sex gratification. Because I understood that took them to the hellish worlds. You know, but took them further and further entangled into karma. You know, and because there's such a big heat out there, you can always feel it. Material envy and material lust. You know, that's why you can get out of it by chanting holy name. But if look how easy it is, but no one's doing it. Yeah, I mean, I know through, yes, people have taken books off me, maybe not. Yeah, but so many people have given books to everything, yes, anybody's given books to those, you know, they're not all becoming Hare Krishnas. They're reading the books, and they're not all coming to the temple. A few are, but because these people are really embedded souls, they've got a lot of bad karmic history. You know, they've got still want to enjoy it a lot, still want to defy God. Sometimes they want to defy God in horrible ways. You know? And you're born in this time. So for somebody who's got interest in piety, Krishna is making an exception. You know, he's making it a little bit easier by just chanting his name. You know? But the idea of God and his name being the same, chanting God's name, even if it worked, they don't want it. They want to be here in this hell. So Krishna, that's your design, just learn the whole way. Just keep not taking the tablets and keep getting ill. That's you have to understand you're very fortunate, you're very lucky. You may not have never got out of it. You know, this is Prabhupada's mercy on him, that he's credited with this. You know, this is an amazing, amazing mercy. Your soul is actually getting the purpose of its very existence to back to itself. You know, so you can't sort of. The only goal, the most important and only goal in life is going back to Krishna. Everything else is just a facilitation of that end. Yeah, that is your goal. There is no other goal. Everything else is a distraction. That's why we say live simply, because you know, if you start working on the bread problem, you're not working on the problem of getting out of it and being with Krishna. People are so conditioned, like they just won't understand that. My mother was terrified I was going to live in a temple for the rest of my life. When I went to live in a temple, she was like trying to convince me left, right, and centre to come out of that, you know, because she was conditioned. Now it's totally different. She chants and wanders around against temples. You know, I don't think she probably wouldn't say that to me. You know, because she's at the end of her life. You know, so she sees it a bit more clearly now. But we are only here for a fraction of a second. There's the body and all its accoutrements and its attachments we have. They're not. Even the sun god will die, like I said, you know, on Saturday. But all of this will go.
So there will be nothing left. Nothing.
No, there's another day of Prabhupada, and it will happen again. And, you know, and we know this from Bhagavad. You know, and this will keep going, keeps going, you know, and eventually it will go back into Vishnu and come back out again and do it again. And you may have been here for trillions of Earths. Trillions! You know, this might be your one chance. And to not to take that seriously, that's why they're insane. Prabhupada said they're just crazy. They're wasting the human form of life. Not just the fact that they're doing all this stupid stuff, they're also not doing what it's like. To get a human body is very, very, very rare. Look how many millions of souls there are on this planet in 8,400,000 species. There's millions of souls here as grass blades, as ants, as plants, as fish, as aquatics. You've got the human form. There's only 6 billion humans, trillions of ants. You're more likely to become an insect than you are to become a human being. You know? But, the material energy is powerful, but the propensity of the conditioned soul to be selfish, enjoy for themselves. All the world's problems are due to selfishness, not recognising God. Every single problem. Just recognising that there's an owner in charge. They wouldn't destroy our planet because they realise it's not theirs. If everything is to be used for Krishna, why is there environmental damage? You wouldn't do it. If everything is for Krishna, what's the problem in life? There's no problems in life. The only reason we have anxiety is most people's problems are self-gratification problems. If you really think about it, I'm worried about my kids. Worried about your kids, extended self-gratification. What's that got to do with Krishna? If you're worried about your kids, who might be a devotee but might not then become a devotee, that's maybe a concern. But most people are worried about my kids getting a job. That's sense gratification. You're worried about your own sense gratification, so your kids won't have sense gratification, or may not get sense gratification. Isn't that a good thing? From the Bhagavad point of view, that's a good thing. You don't want your kids to have more sense gratification. But the entire educational system is designed to make people sense gratifiers. So what did Prabhupada call it? The killers of the soul. Literally, people have been born here, and their souls have been killed by the system. You turn them into sense gratification agents. We're getting some mitigation. If you spend, and if you go to Coles and Woolworths, you go to Coles and Woolworths?
Yeah.
So what do you think they do with your money?
Sorry?
What do they do with your money?
Just take it all.
Yeah, and they pay the meat producers for that.
Meat products. And
To be in this world is to be implicated in all the sin. So by chanting, you're not getting the effects of the life. It cannot escape what they've created out there. It's very difficult. Somehow you'll be implicated. You know? If I help this client get this money, I'm going to spend it on eating beef or something. Okay, why am I doing that as a lawyer? Why am I using my intellectual skills that Krishna's given me for that purpose? You've got to stop questioning yourself. Then you realize, I'm better off just chanting all day. Yeah. Yeah, no, you've got to live as well, but we live to the minimum level. You know. This is all for another time, this discussion. Yeah. We'll not talk about that. Is that all right?
yeah.
Good. 10 out of 10. To the wrong part, DJ. Sorry, I was a bit tired today. I really thought.
Kirtan Adelaide. Leave a like and subscribe.